and we respect that direction, but I won't say anything more beyond.
Honorable Chairperson and members of the Portfolio Committee, the Honorable Minister. We regret, Honorable Chairperson, that the statement did what we never intended to do, and it will never happen again. That the statement did what we
indicated that the cabinet is sitting today, so the minister won't be joining us. Is the cabinet. So I'm here representing the ministry. That is myself. As per your indication in your request, I need to put the committee that we as the ministries were never consulted about the media statements that you read from the newspapers. And also
the first issue is on whose instruction was that statement issued, Lieutenant General Magale? Right, let's get other views. Yes. General Mutiba.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members.
The BOC. There was a general discussion by all the members of the BOC. And in that discussion, all the members said that we need to issue a statement Chair, the question is whether the National Commissioner was present in the meeting. I just omitted her because, I was looking at the people that were present here. Indeed, the National Commissioner was present in the meeting.
Chair, I'm shaking my head. We are sitting here and being told we are sitting here and being told, first of all, every effort was made not to tell us that the National Police Commissioner was in that meeting. Every other person was detailed and not her. We were not part employed there. We were not part, we do not know. But what we are seeing here, it means our subordinates are always doing this to our community members that we represent. Can you stop playing games, please?
I'm sitting with matters right here. Not surprised. What my honourable colleague is saying is absolutely correct. I'm sitting with matters right now. Sitting with matters right now. I'm sitting with matters right now, whether you talk about Gauteng, whether you talk about KwaZulu-Natal, where police protect police at the expense of our community members, and which is protect police at the expense of our community members.
I see it as an insult to this committee with what you've just said. You're insulting the committee. In fact, you are insulting the South African Police Services because you have carrying a rank there that is supposed to be respected.
We regret.
We were never consulted about the meeting.
On whose instruction was that statement issued?
By all the members of the BIA. The Commissioner was present in the meeting.
Here and being told, first of all, part we do not know, but what we are seeing here, it means you are sabotage.
Whether you talk about Gauteng, whether you talk about KwaZulu.
Are insulting.
the Minister of Trade and Industry, the Minister of Social Development, the Security Cluster, and all these ministers are going to bring their experience and knowledge to bear on the solutions that we should find. I would suggest that we give this committee an opportunity, and following their deliberations, there will be a report that will be tabled to Cabinet, and thereafter an announcement will be made. And an announcement will be made in a way to resolve all these unintended consequences. Now, if there is a government that is concerned about jobs in our country, it is the Jacob Zuma government. Now, yesterday, the President outlined the government's 9-point plan. And he outlined the measures and the steps that we are taking to implement the 9-point plan. And let me tell you, because you don't know, the 9-point plan is being implemented and it is beginning to have good effect. It is possible that you are blind and you do not see. We are implementing it. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Dudley. Honourable Dudley.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I have been partially covered, but we appreciate the fact-based engagement mentioned at the Presidential Business Working Group in Pretoria last Friday on the possible unintended consequences of the new visa regulations. But the big question is, how long is this going to take? And what we really want to know is government treating this with the urgency needed to prevent further damage, which is happening even as we speak. Thank you.
The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, Honourable Member. In terms of time frame, this matter is going to be dealt with immediate effect. And as we speak, arrangements are being made for the Interministerial Committee to meet forthwith. And once it has met and deliberated on all these matters, on an evidence-based manner, we will be able to find solutions and the results thereof will be announced. And this is a government that is responsive. We are going to be responding to the challenges that we face. And I know that my fellow honourable members on the other side don't believe this. And you don't believe this, of course, because you are not in government. Now, we are in government and we know what we are talking about. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Esterhuizen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honourable Deputy President, I can only think or hope that you were misquoted to say that South Africa is at the cutting edge of immigration and visa regulations. South Africa is at the edge of losing more than 8 billion rand in revenue from the outbound industries and more than 100,000 of jobs. Honourable Deputy President, we are competing for tourism in the international arena with 200 other countries. We clearly need to be more flexible and competitive in terms of ease of entry into our country. With President Zuma showing his concern and saying so in Pretoria, and not on a committee, has this issue been discussed at cabinet level? And how do you plan to ensure that South Africa remains a competitive tourism destination?
Honourable Deputy President.
The fact that President Zuma, Honourable Speaker, appointed this interministerial committee is testimony to the fact that he himself, as President of the Republic, sees this matter in serious light. And he has elevated the process of resolving this to interministerial level so that it can be given the due attention that it requires. Now, I visited the Department of Home Affairs offices and went to the government printing works, and I saw with my own eyes the cutting-edge technology that I was talking about, how they issue passports, how they issue our identity cards, and the manner in which they have devoted time and effort to make sure that we are amongst the best in the world. That is cutting-edge technology that is being utilized. And as Home Affairs will be announcing measures, further measures in future, they will actually be basing them on the technological advancement that we have within the government printing works that produces our passports, that produces our identity cards and identity books. That is where we are ahead of many countries in the world. In fact, we are amongst the top few in the world that have the technology that we have. And in time, we will be introducing biometrics to ensure that when we deal with people who come to visit our country, we will do so flawlessly and with great ease for them. And that will also enhance the coming in of tourists into our country. What we are going through is just a temporary problem. We are going to resolve this problem. I am absolutely sure about that. It has been raised by a number of people, and our sensitivity is going to lead us to resolve this problem. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Gumede.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Deputy President. Thank you, Honorable Deputy President, for your inclusive, comprehensive, smart, and clear response to a complicated matter that is very complex in the world. South Africa is not losing jobs as much as other parts of the world. That is why we are having so many immigrants from so many parts of the world coming to South Africa. It's because we are better off. And President, what arose here is the issue of security, particularly the security of our children. How prevalent is the issue of child trafficking in South Africa? I thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
As we deal with this matter, at the IMC, we will be doing it on an evidence basis. We will be dealing with all the facts and the details that this matter will require. As we speak, we still find quite a number of incidents of children who are being taken out of the country illegally and who are also being taken out as kidnappees, if you like. And now, obviously, we need to create a balance. And even as we look at the economic impact and the security, we've got to create a good balance to make sure that we do indeed secure the security of our children so that our children are not just taken out of the country. Imagine your own child being taken out of the country without your knowledge and without your permission. How would that grab you as a parent? Now, the government has a responsibility to secure our children, but at the same time, we also have a responsibility to make sure that we enable tourists to come to our country. It is striking this balance that is the important part, and that's precisely what the IMC is going to do. So all the figures will be collated, and when the IMC meets, we will be able to deal with real facts in front of us. Thank you very much.
Point of order.
Yes, Honorable Steenhuisen.
Madam Speaker, we put questions to the Deputy President so he can answer them. With respect, the Honourable Gumede asked a very good question. He said, how prevalent is child trafficking? It's a good question. It needs an answer. The Deputy President did not answer it.
That's not the point of order. Honourable members, we now come to question number 15, asked by the Honourable Gina to the Deputy President. Honorable Deputy President.
You tried. The main purpose of our visit to China, Honorable Speaker, was to review progress that has been made in relation to the implementation of the 5 to 10-year strategic program for cooperation that was signed between our President and President Xi Jinping, with specific focus on China's experience in the management of their state-owned enterprises. The following aspects of the strategic program were discussed: the alignment of industries to accelerate South Africa's industrialization process, enhancement of cooperation in special economic zones, the enhancement of our ocean economy, the infrastructure development, the human resource and skills cooperation, as well as the issue of concessionary finance that can be made available from China. Among the key outcomes from the bilateral discussions was a commitment from China to cooperate with South Africa in promoting industrialization and improving our economic capacity and our ability to create jobs. China has agreed and committed to share its experience and expertise on special economic zones where they have excelled over the past 30 years and created a number of economic zones that have led to the creation of gigantic cities. It has agreed to encourage its companies to invest in South Africa's special economic zones and science and technology parks. China has also agreed to share its experience as well as to assist South Africa in expediting the implementation of our Ocean Economy Program. An important area of cooperation is in the development of skills that are needed for our own economic growth. The area of vocational training, which they have excelled in, was highlighted as important for the implementation of our own industrialization program. China, in this regard of training, has offered us thousands of training opportunities over the next 5 years. We also spent time talking to the Chinese Academy of Governance, where they train their government officials as well as state-owned enterprise executives. They agreed to place South African government officials and SOE executives on leadership training programs, which we intend to take up. Initiatives are already underway to finalize relevant training programs for public service managers. The delegation also met China State Asset Supervision and Administration Commission, known as SASAC, which oversees 111 national state-owned enterprises. Some aspects of China's approach to SOEs are worth noting, and obviously not everything that they do would be suitable to our own conditions, but there are quite a number of lessons we can learn from them. There is, for example, a standard approach to governance processes and the structure across all SOEs that's supervised by a single entity, the SASAC. The Commission also oversees performance assessment, the training and remuneration of SOE executives. The success of many China's SOEs is due in part to the reform that they have put in place at the shareholding level. In some cases, this has included introduction of strategic investors and the listing of some of their SOEs in capital markets in various parts of the world, from New York, London, and Hong Kong. We will continue engagements with the Commission to deepen our own understanding of the way that the China SOE model works. And as I said, it is not everything that we will be able to learn from them, but there's quite a lot of good that they are doing that we can also learn. This aims to enhance the capacity of the state to reposition SOEs to drive industrialization, to unlock private sector investment between our two countries. The trip was quite an eye-opener on a number of levels for many of us who participated in it, because the success that they have achieved is quite phenomenal, and their state-owned enterprises play a critical role in the development of their own economy. There's much that we can learn from them, and we intend to do so. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Gina.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you so much, Honorable Deputy President, for sharing with us the experiences, the skills that we have learned from China to make sure that our SOEs do contribute positively towards the national development. But then, Honorable Deputy President, moving forward from the experiences that we have gained in China, what can we see moving forward, the plans on the support and the initiatives to make sure that our SOEs definitely execute their mandate in this country in making sure that national development is achieved as they are there to achieve that? Are there anything that you can share with us as per the plans and the initiatives that you have put in place to make sure that they do achieve that? Thank you, Speaker.
The Honorable Deputy President.
I mean, some of the outstanding things that we learned from them is just the mere management of their SOEs has been so well streamlined, and it has to do with coordination. The coordination of their SOEs is done through one central body that manages up to, as I said, 111 SOEs. Their governance structures is something that we can learn from. They've got a more or less uniform governance structures, and a governance structure that is so well aligned to managing even listed companies on New York Exchange as well as London Stock Exchange. It works, it is effective, and there's a lot we can learn from them in terms of their people who are appointed to the boards, people who are appointed as executives, and they also deal with the remuneration of people who manage their state-owned enterprises. And they also have a process of looking at the plans, the business plans of these state-owned enterprises, which we can learn from. Their planning process is really good and second to none. Some of their state-owned enterprises are the largest corporations in their sectors. For instance, China has the largest bank in the world with 600 million customers. They have the largest telecoms company, mobile telephony in the world, with more than 700 subscribers. So with that, we were able to see the extent to which we can learn, and they are going to come here to have a workshop with us so that we can expose as many managers and executives from our SOEs to the experience that they have had. And I know that members on the other side are very dismissive of the China experience. And you do that to your own peril, because China is bound to be the biggest economy in the world. And on our side, we say we want to learn from the best. And they are now running the best corporations in the world. Corporations that you are accustomed to in the West are diminishing and diminishing in size and in value. So don't scoff at the lessons that we can learn from China. We have a strategic relationship with China, and we intend to exploit it to good effect, because they have offered to assist us, and they have not offered to dominate us. And that, to us, is an important part.
The Honorable Mazone.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. Deputy President, South Africa's state-owned companies are in general in a very bad way. They face great financial problems, labour relations are at an all-time low, and the executives earn huge salaries regardless of their performances. Now, in China, there are severe consequences for non-performance of executives, and we've just heard from you yourself that they have a very interesting management style, although we may not agree with all of them. In our country, however, we give golden handshakes and exit bonuses just to get rid of non-performing executives. Can the Deputy President tell us exactly what he learnt in terms of holding the executives of state-owned companies to account, and how he in fact intends to ensure that there are in fact consequences for South African executives who do not perform in their positions at state-owned companies?
Honourable Deputy President.
Let me start off by saying not all state-owned enterprises are going through difficult times. A number of our state-owned enterprises are doing very well. So you can understand the architecture of our state-owned enterprises. We have more than 700 state-owned entities, 700 of them. And the majority of them are doing very well, extremely well, and some of them are even able to pay a dividend to the fiscus. Now, a few of these state-owned enterprises are operating in difficult markets. Difficult markets indeed, and I can think of the airlines, I can think of the post office, I can also think of energy. These are very difficult markets, and if you look at the league of good performing sectors in the world, some of those are not the best performing sectors. However, we are determined to make sure that they work. We revamp them. We make sure that they operate better as we move on. What did we learn from China? Their accountability process is very high. And that is one thing that we can learn from them. They hold their executives to account, and they make sure that they perform to plan. And the state-owned enterprises have shareholder pacts or agreements with the entity. So that is something that they have. We also have that, but we obviously need to increase the performance of our state-owned enterprises. Mark my words, it's not all our state-owned enterprises that are in difficult conditions. Some of them are, and we are going to straighten them out, and they will start performing well. This is a promise I give you.
The Honourable Shivambu.
Thank you, Speaker. Now, Deputy President, when your president of the ANC was addressing the unnecessary press conference yesterday, the Reserve Bank governor was addressing the young economist in the Economist of the Year award ceremony in Sandton. And they made two very contradictory projections in terms of the growth patterns. The president made an unscientific observation that the economy is going to grow by 3%. The Reserve Bank governor says that there are turbulences that are confronting the economy because of an objective capitalist crisis, part of which is their continued importation of metals and other mineral resources from China, the declining demand of commodities from South Africa by China, and broadly now the depreciation of the currency in China. Are you going to revise your trade relationship with China, particularly the tariff policies? The unions are saying that increased tariffs on steel,
your minute
other
is over, Honourable Shivambu.
Are you going to revise your trade relations with China, and how do you move forward?
Honourable Deputy President.
We have a very cooperative relationship with China. We have committed to discuss everything under the sun that affects our relationship, be it trade, be it politics, be it cooperation at the multilateral level. And clearly, this is one of the issues that we will discuss. Yes, you are right. Our trade unions have raised the issue of tariffs. The world is going through turbulence, and it is bound to lead to those who are affected, and many of our people are affected by the economic turbulence. It is bound to get them to respond in particular ways. And one of the ways, of course, is to say increase tariffs so that we don't have our own sectors or companies wiped out. And this is a matter that they have raised prominently, and it is going to be discussed. It will be discussed. I know the Department of Trade and Industry is going to be discussing it with the unions, and that discussion will have a particular outcome. And in doing all this, we will need to take a balance between what we are experiencing and what the companies, including workers, are going through, as well as the trade protocols or the trading processes that we have with a country like China. And this happens all the time. Tariffs are sometimes increased and reduced depending on various conditions. And in this case, the matter will be discussed. Now, the strength of our relationship is such that we will be able to discuss the matter and find solutions, solutions of how we continue trading and how we continue dealing with each other. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The Honourable Singh.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Deputy President, my question is, what did you learn from the Chinese experience with regard to the sale of non-strategic assets? Now, we were told in this very house here when we were considering the bailout to Eskom that certain non-strategic assets will be disposed of. And in particular, I want to ask about disclosure, because this Parliament still does not know what non-strategic assets are going to be disposed of. And I wonder if the Chinese pass on that information to their Parliament, and we haven't learned from that lesson yet. Thank you, Honourable Deputy President.
The Honourable Deputy President.
What we do know is that the Chinese, through their SASEC facility, are able to identify certain enterprises that they believe should either be listed on various stock exchanges to achieve certain objectives. And some of the objectives would be either to modernize them, to expand the market, to make them operate outside China, or to raise capital for further expansion of their corporations. Now, they always have very clear, focused strategic objectives. And as they either list these entities or invite partners, they do so knowing that they will always have a majority control of the entity. And I give you one good example. SABC, which is the largest bank in the world, which is listed in New York, they floated, I think, 30% of the bank. They retain control, and through that, they are able to operate in a number of countries, including here in South Africa and a number of countries in Europe. So they utilize parceling out portions of their strategic companies to raise capital and to expand. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, and we think that they have chosen a particular path, and we will be looking very closely at what we can learn from them. Now, in relation to the issue that you have raised on Eskom, the Minister of Finance and the Treasury are in the process of dealing with that, and at the right moment, they will be able to disclose precisely what they are dealing with. But in relation to what we've learned from China is to learn that, one, you can run your state-owned enterprises in such a way that you make them profitable, and in such a way that you also make them attractive to other investors. But the important thing with them is that they still retain control of the companies that they own, so that they can achieve their developmental objectives. And this is precisely what they have been doing with many of the companies that they own at state level. Thank you very much.
We now come to question number 16, which is the last question asked by the Honourable Hadebe to the Deputy President. Honourable Deputy President.
Honourable Speaker, the SADC Observer Mission, which I had been appointed to be a facilitator in, made recommendations for the Kingdom of Lesotho to consider effecting constitutional and security reforms. Now, many stakeholders in Lesotho made a number of proposals, and these stakeholders were traditional leaders, the churches, the NGOs, and as we met them and interacted with them, they continued to say that in order to bring permanent peace and stability in Lesotho, they need to embark on a reform process. And let me say that this was based on their own views as Basotho, who felt the need to stabilize their country at a political and security level. In his inauguration speech, the Prime Minister, Ndate Pakadita Musisidi, asserted the Lesotho government's commitment to pursuing such reforms. As he was inaugurated, he said they want to embark on a process of reforms. The former Prime Minister himself, Ndate Tom Tabani, had also supported the proposal for constitutional and security reforms. And in fact, he had intimated that on a number of occasions. The recommendations that were made by the facilitation team were informed by the experience of the SADC mission on the ground and in fulfillment of the mandate of the SADC organ on politics, defense, and security to promote long-term political and security stability in the Mountain Kingdom. The recommendations that we have made as a facilitation team or as SADC are the following: refining the respective roles of the Lesotho Defense Force and the Lesotho Mounted Police Service to remove any areas of overlap in their mandates. As it is now, some of the areas that they have mandates overlap, and there tends to be tension and problems between the two forces. Reforms also have to be made on the parliamentary rules as they affect coalition governments, as they also affect issues such as motions of no confidence and the prorogation of parliament and the issue of floor crossing. Many of them agree that they need to focus on this with a view of seeing how best this can be managed. They even went on a trip to New Zealand to go and see how a multi-party or a coalition government can function better, and they were able to learn quite a number of lessons, and they themselves felt that they need to have some reforms. We also identified an area such as the judicial and the civil service area where reforms are needed, as well as the media level. And processes that could be followed in ensuring an inclusive process for the adoption of these reforms. That is, what structure will be set up to effect all these reforms? Will it be a parliamentary one? Will it be either another entity, either a constitutional assembly or a constitution reform committee? Is something that they themselves need to deal with. These recommendations were accepted by the SADC Troika when it met. This process now is in the hands of the Basotho themselves. We have said, even as SADC accepted these recommendations, that it is now in their hands. They are going to be the sole authors of the reform process that needs to ensue, but SADC is always going to be there to give whatever assistance that it can. The summit also decided on the establishment of a commission of inquiry to investigate the death of Brigadier Maaparangwe Mahau, the former Lieutenant General, and matters retaining to the broader security environment. The commission of inquiry is underpinned by terms of reference that deal with a number of issues. They will need to review the investigations that have already been started by the Defense Force into an alleged mutiny plot, covering also the alleged kidnapping of former members of the Defense Force and the alleged kidnapping or killings of members of the opposition. It will also, this commission, investigate the circumstances surrounding the death of Brigadier Mahau, the former Lieutenant General. It will also investigate the legality and the manner of the appointment of Brigadier Mahau. It will also focus its attention, Madam Speaker, to investigate the legality and the manner of the removal of Lieutenant General Kamudi as the head of the Lesotho Defense Force in 2014, as well as his reappointment in 2015. There have been views that his reappointment has actually led to a number of divisions and tensions in Lesotho, and this Commission of Inquiry is going to spend quite a bit of time investigating that. And lastly, it will investigate the allegations that are made by opposition parties and civil society that the instability that is in Lesotho now is because Kamudi was reappointed. And these, Madam Speaker, are proposals that have been put forward. But let me say that the government and the opposition parties have also made proposals on expanding the terms of reference, and these proposals are going to be put to the SADC Troika Summit that is going to take place in Botswana, and we are hoping that they will be discussed by the leaders, and if approved, they will form part of the terms of reference that will guide the work of the Commission. And the Commission itself, Madam Speaker, is headed by the Botswana High Court Judge, Judge Pumapi, and includes experts from Botswana, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Malawi, and South Africa in fields such as law, criminal investigation, and forensic science. Now, the other decision, without belaboring the issue, was the setting up of an oversight committee that is going to be focusing on an early warning mechanism in the event of instability and make sure that it intervenes at the appropriate time before things escalate either into further instability. And this committee will be led by a political appointee, and it will include political, intelligence, and police and military components, and it will assist in ensuring that SADC is able to timeously deal with signs of political and security instability. And we believe, Madam Speaker, that once all these matters are handled, once the Commission of Inquiry finishes its work, once the constitutional and security reforms are put in place, Lesotho will definitely return to much longer-term stability and peace. SADC is determined to continue assisting the people of Lesotho to make sure that there is peace and security in the Mountain Kingdom. I thank you.
The Honorable Hadebe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Deputy President, we support the notion of African solutions to African problems, but these solutions must be delivered timeously because the loss of one life is one life too many, like that of Brigadier Mahau. So since, Deputy President, the Commission of Inquiry is the initiative of the SADC, what is the time frame allocated for the Commission to complete its work? And number two, how will SADC ensure the credibility of the Commission and the enforcement of its recommendations? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
The time frame that the double troika of SADC agreed to was 60 days. So the Commission has been given 60 days to do its work and report back to SADC. Now, we're hoping that within this 60 days, they'll be able to do all that. They have already commenced their work. They've started working based on the terms that exist now, and in a few days' time, those terms could be expanded, and they will continue working. With regard to credibility, this is as credible as you can get it. It's got a High Court judge from Lesotho, Botswana rather, and it's got quite a number of other people who are independent. I would say fiercely independent. They are going to do their work without fear or favor, and they are going to make sure that they base everything that they do on fact. In fact, Judge Pumapi was announcing yesterday that they are going to base everything that they do on facts. They want people who can come with facts to table to them so that they can evaluate those facts and come to some conclusions. Now, We believe that this is a high-powered commission. It will be able to execute its work. As to the implementability, if one can use that term, of their findings, the findings will be presented to SADC, and SADC will be able to evaluate the work they have done and come to certain recommendations. So the recommendations will be made to various stakeholders in Lesotho. It will be made to various stakeholders like political parties, NGOs, and many of them will probably have one role or other to play in the implementation of the findings. And we're hoping that the people of Lesotho will give this commission an opportunity to do its work. They will cooperate with the commission. They will go to the commission to present whatever evidence on whatever issue that the commission is going to conduct its investigation in. I think this is a great opportunity for Lesotho to utilize this process that has been started by SADC to move forward with a greater determination to embrace peace and stability, and to make sure that the political stability that they will have in Lesotho is going to be long-term, because, frankly speaking, Lesotho has been dogged by a number of incidents that have led to feelings of instability. But right now, the situation is stable, and we are hoping that we will be able to deepen that stability once the Commission has given its findings, and that everybody will abide by the findings that the Commission will have come up with and the recommendations that will have come up from SADC. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Malema.
Motaja President, agina go khana lo ena mogalabe today. Ke be ke re go kwana botse. Ka hore mogalabola o ba tshwere bua Lesotho. O ile a bolela hore no, o ile a mo khopela project ya metsi. Ka khone. A re wena ra wa nna sena motho wa dikhona. A re tswele ka ntle ntwe le hore wa inyaka. Ebe transparent, batho ba bone hore no, facilitator ya rena e khopela project ya metsi ka leswiswi. Jwalo ke nyaka o tseba hore na ke nnete o fela o khopela di project ka mola Lesotho tša metsi na, ka gore a re nyaka gore o die tšeo di diang kwa Eskom ka mola Lesotho, ka gore wa tseba gore ka Eskom re mo tlabegong ka baka la gago, ka gore o nyaka gore Shanduka ebe yona e dominata malatla ka Eskom. Jwalo re re ka Lesotho ke nnete e re o rumile gore o ye o thushe naga ele a batho o e hlomole mmotlwa, wena o ya o khopela tša go ja na. Ke a leboga.
The Honorable, the Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Malema, wa bona ntwe e Judge Pumapi a e buletseng maobane ha na thoma mmereko wa gagwe wa commission. O ile a re re nyaka gore ntwe engwe le engwe re tla e diang e be based mo di facts, go ska ba le owe o tla fitlang go commission a tlisa mabarebare, go ska ba le owe o tla tlang a re gotwe a bolela ntho e seng teng, a bolela ntho e senang botlhatsi le yona, ka gobane ntho engwe le engwe la o le politician o tshwanetse gore ha o e bolela o be o na le botlhatsi, o re botlhatsi ke bo, gore batho ka o mokana bona ba kgone go bona gore aowa monna o bolela nnete, ka gobane ha o sa dire bjalo batho ba tlane ba dule ba re no monna o ka nnete ha a bolele nnete, o ne o tlhagisa ditaba fela. So nna ke a o kgopela gore o ska wela mo categoring eo, o ska wela mo categoring eo ya go emella fela o bolela dintho tse senang di facts. Now ntho e ke ratileng ya Judge Pumapi gore o ile a botsa batho ka mokana bona gore ha thoma mmereko wa gagwe ha thoma mosebetsi wa gagwe o ile a re ke batla gore batho ba Lesotho ha le tla mo go nna le tle le tlo bolela nnete le ska tlo bolela mashano kapo le ska tla le tlo bolela ntho e seng teng yaanong re Malema wena o na le tsela ya gore o bolele dintho fela o na le o bolela dintho fela ene rena ba bang re na le re no e re ska fetola ka obane ha re ka fetola re tla ba le rona setse re bona ka re no bolela fela le rena so na a ke nya go wela mo category eo na ntho e ke kgopela mo go wena ene ko botsa honorable member ke kgopela gore re ska bua ntho tse seng teng ntate Thabane o ile a tlhagisa lentswe leowe go ile ga ba le ntate o mong o bitswang James Motlatsi o ile nga ya mo go yena re ntate Thabane ditaba tse tso di ntshang wa tseba gore ke leshano Ramaphosa ha a tlela metsi mo Lesotho ke tla ba ke a isa kae metsi motho o elang metsi ko Lesotho ke minister Mokonyana ke mmereko wa gagwe nna a ke ele metsi ke tla etsang ka metsi ka nnete la go thwe ke batla eng kapa eng ntho ya gore ke nyaka kontraka e tsamaelang le mmuso ntate Malema ke batla gore o dule o tseba gore a ke yo mo yona tseba nnete gore mamotha go be go fedile nna le wena re kwane go pela gore re kwane ka yona ntho eo re ka no lwana ka dintho tse ding ya leshano a le fele ene ke nyaka gore le fele gona mo parlamenteng ena e ska thola re bolela mashano nna le wena re tla tshegisana re tla kwana so go bolela nnete finally the process of our engagement in Lesotho is based on principle. It's based on principle, and people that I work with feel honored that the leaders of the region have asked us to go and help the people of Lesotho find peace and stability. And Honorable Malema, we will not mess it up by going there, sent by the governments in the region, and pursue personal interests. That is not how I work, and I will never work like that. I work based on principle. I feel honored that the president of our country has said, Cyril Ramaphosa, go to Lesotho and assist. I feel honored that President Mugabe, President of Botswana, President of Namibia, they have all said, we want you to go and do work for all of us. And there is just no way I can mess it up by saying that I will never do.
The Honorable Mishwe. The Honorable Reverend Mishwe.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Deputy President. The Kingdom of Lesotho has a long history of political instability. For decades, there has been what appears to be a struggle between the King and the Prime Minister and their respective allies, with the army at times taking sides or even initiating coups. In addition to the proposals that have been made in order to remedy the current situation, has the Honorable Deputy President considered recommending that the army undergo some workshops that would include the importance of commitment to respect democratic choice of citizens, loyalty to the government in power, and being non-partisan as they execute their duties that include defending their country. The Lesotho Defense Force has a major role to play to bring about and maintain political stability in that country. Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Mishwe, one of the areas of reform, as I indicated, is clarifying the roles between the army and the police. And as I said, at the moment, they have overlapping mandates. in certain areas, not in all areas. And they themselves, as members of the Lesotho Defence Force and member of the Lesotho Mounted Police Service, know that this is one of the things that leads to tension between them. And this has been the case for quite a long time. And they know that if there are to be any security reforms, they need to revolve around clarifying their mandate. They also know that the issue of training in terms of executing their mandate is an important one, but the non-partisanship of the Lesotho Defence Force and the Lesotho Mounted Police Service is also an important aspect of ensuring that we have peace and stability. Truth be told, the community of Lesotho is really divided. It's divided, hugely divided, and that division tends to also impact on the Lesotho Defence Force and the Lesotho Mounted Police Service. And they know themselves. And we have raised the issue prominently with them that the best way to address this issue is in the end to have these security reforms. And the security reforms will have a number of elements that need to be looked at. The one that is being mentioned by the Honorable Reverend Mishwe is an area that needs to be looked at, and we are certain that if the Basotho themselves finally embark on a journey of constitutional and security reform, they will be able to find one another as they clarify their roles and as they make sure that the civil service, the Lesotho Defence Force and the Lesotho Mounted Police, and indeed the correctional service personnel become non-partisan to serve the government of Lesotho and the people of Lesotho under the leadership of their king. And if they can get to that, then we will even have greater peace and stability in Lesotho. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Kubisa.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. Deputy President, it's clear that Lesotho has got to consolidate its political and constitutional reforms. But over and above that, one cannot overlook the issue of economic growth, investment, that's domestic and foreign investment in Lesotho. What are the initiatives, if there were any, that the summit mooted with regard to economic growth in Lesotho? Because it's one of the fundamental issues that have to be taken into cognizance.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Economic growth is clearly one of the important areas that Lesotho needs to focus on, and they, as Basotho, also know that. Now, their economic growth trajectory has been held back or held in check or even delayed by the turmoil that Lesotho has gone through since last year. And testimony to that is even our own water project. The consultations that need to continue between Lesotho and South Africa were put on the periphery as we were dealing with the question of security in the country. And it is now that there is a modicum of peace that Minister of Water Affairs and Sanitation has started engaging more meaningfully with her counterparts in Lesotho with a view of expanding and extending our water importation process from Lesotho. So peace and stability is really the important issue that they should focus on, because through that they will be able to unlock economic growth, they'll be able to unlock investment opportunities, not only from, say, South Africa, their immediate neighbor, also from other countries that are far-flung. I know, for instance, that many countries in Europe and the United States are concerned about the situation in Lesotho and want to extend their investment activities further. And it is when we will find long-lasting peace in Lesotho that we will be able to put Lesotho on a much better platform of real economic growth. It is time that the people of Lesotho start focusing on their own economic growth, and peace and stability will definitely unleash that. And after the elections, we believe that the process is beginning to take off, and it needs to be consolidated as they resolve all these problems that I alluded to later. And I think that the future of Lesotho is quite bright. They will be able to attract investment, and South Africa will always be on the ready to assist the people of Lesotho get economic growth, create jobs, and make sure that the livelihoods of Basotho is more meaningful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy President. That concludes the question session to the Deputy President. We now come to questions to ministers in the Peace and Security Cluster. Question number 230 has been asked by the Honorable Olomisa to the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans. I've been informed that the Deputy Minister will be answering questions on behalf of the Minister. The Honorable, the Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. In delivering her budget vote address on the 19th of May 2015, the Minister indicated the following in relation to the Defence Force Service Commission, and I quote, "The Permanent Defence Force Service Commission was appointed in 2013, but it does have challenges. The possible inadequacies of the Commission's powers to fulfill its mandates are being addressed so that it is empowered to undertake all matters envisioned by Section 198 of the Constitution for members in uniform," close quotes. This commitment followed on an earlier meeting in 2015 of the Council on Defense, where the same matter was raised in the presence of the military command. The Minister has therefore committed herself to a process of consultations in considering the review of the powers of the Commission. Thank you.
The first follow-up question will be asked by the Honourable Olomisa.
Thank you, Chairperson. In light of your response, Honourable Deputy Minister, when should we expect the Honourable Minister to amend the relevant legislation in order to strengthen the powers of the Commission?
The Honourable Deputy Minister.
As I've indicated earlier, that we are in the process of reviewing the powers of the Commission, and therefore it will be premature for me to comment on the. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
I see the name of the Honourable Ndlozi. Is there somebody who's taking the follow-up? Yes, Honourable Member.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Honourable Minister, the Defence Force Service Commission was established in 2013, but to date, thousands of Defence Force reservists are still forced into slave-like working conditions. They get called up when the department needs them. When they don't need them, they throw them back into the streets. And here we're not just talking of ordinary labor. We're talking of youth that has been trained to use dangerous weapons that are being thrown in the streets. Now, the question to you is that, is this not the total disregard of the rights of reservists to fair labor practices? And how is the Commission fared thus far in preventing your department from abusing the Defence Force reservists? But before you answer that question, maybe it's important that I remind you of Section 23.1 of the Constitution that says everyone has a right to fair labor practices. Thank you.
The Honourable Deputy Minister.
It is not true that the Defence Force is not taking care of the reserve forces. As you know, Honourable Member, that when you are a reservist, you are called as and when you are required. So, an example, you must be called for a period of 4 times in a year, and you give other reservists a chance to serve. However, there are other reservists that are used beyond the borders of South Africa. There are a lot of reservists who have been called, and there's no way where the Defence Force can just dump the members of the reserve force.
The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honourable Marais.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Deputy Minister, this promise on the Defence Force Service Commission sounds like another poorly considered option to influence people's behaviour and favour. The Public Service Commission is a Section 10 institution, and to promise that the Defence Force Service Commission will have powers and status equal to that of the Public Service Commission is not only opportunistic, but it will require a constitutional amendment as well. What was the motives and the intention of the Minister when this unrealistic promise was made to the soldiers? Was it just to please them and their demands at the time? I thank you.
The Honourable Deputy Minister.
As I also indicated earlier, that we are reviewing the powers of the Defence Force Service Commission. You would know that there is a mandate committee that is cabinet-based. So the Defence Force Service Commission is not above that committee. So we can't do things that are beyond our mandate as the Defence Force Service Commission. However, the Defence Force Service Commission is not only looking at your level, it's looking broadly on the services of the wearing uniform members of the Defence Force.
The last follow-up question is the Honourable Ngwango.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. We had hoped that the establishment of the Defence Force Service Commission was going to help, actually, to alleviate some of the challenges that the Defence Force and its members are facing. Honourable Minister, we find that at the present moment that our troops are of extremely low morale. What is your department doing to expedite and give this matter priority, specifically in order to alleviate the kind of conditions that exist now in the Defence Force which lead to this dampening of morale amongst our troops? Is it possible for the Deputy Minister to give a specific time frame within which this structure will be actually up and running?
The Honourable Deputy Minister.
Indeed, Honourable Mwango, that is why we said we are reviewing the powers of the Commission. The Commission has looked into all the issues that you have raised, Honourable Member, and it has made the recommendation. And it is the view of the Minister that these issues that have been raised by soldiers, they are addressed as a matter of agency. And at the correct time, when the Minister meets with the Commission and other stakeholders, we think they will come up with answers urgently to address these issues that have been raised by the soldiers.
Honourable Members, question number 220 has been asked by the Honourable M.A. Molabatsi to the Minister of Police. The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Members, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, an analysis was conducted, and we established that there are various reasons as to why people leave the South African Police Service, amongst which is pursuance of better remuneration, taking up occupation in other areas, pursuing further studies, as well as business interests, issues of misconduct, as well as some issues of uncertainty pertaining to pension rumors. For the year 2013-2014, we had 2,459 resignations, And 2014-2015 financial year, we had 4,477 resignations. And therefore, the variance, insofar as the issue of resignations are concerned, in the two preceding financial years, stands at 2,018 members. The attrition rate for the South African Police Service for the financial year 2014-2015 stands at 3.8%. The above information excludes a service termination, which essentially means normal retirement and early retirements, ill health, those that are discharged on the basis of Section 35 of the SAPS Act, deaths and dismissals. We have addressed this particular problem through joint roadshows, amongst others, with the Government Employees Pension Fund in all provinces and divisions. The South African Police Service is in the process of appointing a remuneration specialist to look into a benefit structure of the police service, which will include salaries, allowances, and retention of employees. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
The Honourable Molabatsi.
Ke go leboge motlotlegi modulasetulo ke go leboge le wena motlotlegi tona ke poe khatsu ke re whether the recently announced campaign to enlisted former SAPS members is bearing fruit and what are the relevant details. Ke a leboga.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I would request that I table that particular response, which will essentially give numbers and reflections on the amount of work that is being done on that particular front. With due respect, sir, thank you very much.
The Honourable Kola Barnett.
Thank you, Chairperson. The number of police leaving the service has almost tripled in the past 3 years, 7,000 in the last financial year, and now management is begging senior officers to re-enlist. But despite their years of service, they asked to come back at no higher than lieutenant, even if they were a general when they left. Now, Minister, we've seen them driven out over the most absurd morale-killing promotion decisions. We see juniors bounced over seniors, seniors told they will never be promoted, the bungled pension issue you referred to, the policy to protect police deaths has never been implemented, 7 murdered in 12 days. When will you ask the President to rid the SAPS of the National Police Commissioner who has overseen this catastrophe, and what are you doing to stop this outgoing flood of expertise? I'm not holding my breath for the outcome of yet another commission.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me just say that in the context of the South African Police Service, indeed, these matters will continue to engage us, to look at ways and means of how do we actually transform and eventually reform the police service itself. So that is an ongoing challenge now, but I've already dealt with the issue of what is the actual range of reasoning as to why members do leave the police service. So that stands as is. And with regards to the question that is being pursued by the honourable member, she is well aware that the President made some pronouncements recently, and there is a particular process that's being followed, and I think I would urge that that's what we actually, all of us, have got to respect for the President to finally give some guidance insofar as that issue is concerned. Thank you.
The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honourable Meshu.
Thank you, Chairperson. The increasing number of police officers who are being killed is not good for our country. Unless these killings are stopped, we might lose more experienced officers through early retirements, resignations, because of fear for their lives. The HDP believes that police should not just be paid better salaries, but they should be shown greater appreciation for the difficult and dangerous job they are doing. Why is government not improving the capacity of the police and equipping them with more sophisticated weapons, so that they can defend themselves against the criminals. This, we believe, will help boost their morale, which we understand, according to various reports, is at an all-time low. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. Indeed, I think as South Africans, all of us should be extremely concerned with the ongoing police killings. And I think at this level of the political leadership of the country, we do need to also take stock in asking ourselves largely the question of what is it that all of us can do to ensure that we actually deal with this particular problem at a societal level. Now, my view, Honourable Misho, is that the starting point is to educate our people that members of the police service are ours. In other words, the police themselves are the South African community and so forth. So we need to value them. And therefore, also the manner in which we, we deal with issues of policing at broader community and societal level must be in such a manner that we reinforce a positive morale and constructive morale amongst members of the police, but also reassuring within the South African citizenry itself. And I think that's largely the work that has got to be done at the political level, so I would so think. Thank you very much.
Is there a member from the NFP that has pressed the button of the Honourable Nsibi? May I just request honourable members to ensure that they press the button in front of their desk to avoid any confusion? Honourable member.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Honourable Minister, it is quite evident that we have lost quite a few of our police officers through resignation, through loss of life. What program or process have you got in place, Honourable Minister, to ensure that you attract the right kind and quality of police officers in regards to the fact that we have a very high crime rate in South Africa at this point in time, and that with 7,500 resigning or leaving the police force, this will have a negative impact on policing generally in South Africa? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, honourable members. Look, the normal exercise is, of course, that following the rules of natural attrition, we've got to replace people who leave. So we do that. However, we also have been looking into some measures that would have to assist us in recruiting, particularly because you mentioned this point, which I think is a critical point, the correct character of people that we require within the police service. And on project basis, we started off in 2014, for instance, to introduce something that we call the community-based kind of recruitment strategy, amongst other things, so that also members of the community do have a particular sort of a guided say about the type of people that we need to have within the police service. But that in itself is still work on an ongoing basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, question number 257 has been asked by the Honourable Meshu to the Minister of Police. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson, honourable members. The area called Desteneng was serviced until recently by the Westernburg Police Station, which is about 4 kilometers away. And since August 2014 to date, no incidents of rape or of elderly women from age 60 and older were reported. The Polokwane municipality recently relocated the Desteneng community to another area that now falls under the Seshego police station called Extension 106, which is approximately 3 to 6 kilometers away from the Seshego South African Police Service. Mobile services are currently not available at Seshego Police Station, as the Seshego Police Station is not situated far from the community. However, since they were only relocated 6 weeks ago, the station is in the process of establishing a CPF sub-forum in a new village. since the publication of the report, numerous attempts were made to locate the mentioned elderly victims, but in vain. Renewed efforts will be made to locate the victims to conduct a proper investigation. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Is there a follow-up question? The Honorable Meshu.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm actually surprised to hear the Minister say there has not been any reports lately that there are incidences of rape. The latest that we have heard is that elderly women are saying that when evening comes, many times they are scared because they are expecting young boys to come in at any time to rape them. There are even those who say when they go to bed, they know anything can happen at any time. And many of those who are victims are saying the police station is far from where they are. They cannot go there. That is why they are pleading that there should be a mobile police station nearby so that if anything happens, they can go closer. Now, the question is, why was the mobile police station that they had before removed? Because they once had one, it has been taken away, and they are saying that since it has been taken away, there have been a number of cases of rapes at night from elderly women. So I want to know, Honorable Minister, in the light of people who are saying crimes of rape are still carrying on, is the Minister not going to consider getting a mobile police station, even if it's not from Seshego, but from somewhere else, so that the people there can stay in safety? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Let me just say that maybe on the broader point, really, I think all of us at a community level have got a role to play insofar as encouraging, for instance, the level of reporting. Because what I'm talking about here are statistical issues in terms of what happened between August 2014 to date, that we have not received any particular sort of reports of this particular nature. And it's important, therefore, that what we need to do, if there are such complaints indeed at a community level, we need to encourage our people to report such cases, for instance, at our designated police stations. So that's the one issue. Now, in relation to for instance, one of the reasoning considered here is that the Seshego police station is not far away from where the community is located. But all we can do, perhaps, is that this particular matter can still be followed up, for an example, to look at ways and means of how do we then assist members of the community if indeed there is a feeling that there is the dislocation in such a manner that they are not then exposed to the actual policing service as they should be, in a sense. So I think it's a matter that one still can follow up. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
The Honourable Mbele.
Thank you, Chairperson. In December 2013, former Police Minister Nathi Mthethwa stated that the SABC would prioritize crimes against elderly persons as part of its festive season operations in that year. In particular, concerning the rape of the elderly, he highlighted that key to the intervention strategy going forward was the specialized capacity for investigation and victim support that is located in the Family Violence, Child Support and Sexual Offences, or FCS units. But right now, Minister, unfortunately, this operational environment still suffers the four unders of our police service. They are understaffed, under-resourced, under-equipped, and under-trained. So my question, Minister, is what is your plan to accelerate and scale up the establishments and strengthening of the FCS units across the country so that elderly women in rural areas particularly who face the threat of rape can be assured of an effective policing response? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
No, thank you very much, sir. We are taking stock of the overall functioning of the FCS units, and I think we are taking stock in terms of the lessons that we're learning out of the work that is being conducted at the level of the FCS. Now, and I think that will then also inform us in terms of what areas in particular we need to strengthen, and the whole question of how do we reinforce our capacity in dealing with issues of this particular nature. But alongside this issue is that across South Africa there has been quite an issue around the question of the resource allocation guide, for for an example. The manner in which we deploy resources and so on has been frequently raised in community sort of engagements and so on, and we're therefore beginning to also focus ourselves in that particular direction. Thank you very much, Chair.
The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honourable Beekman.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honourable Minister, in your response to Honourable Meshwe, you referred to the fact that the sub-CPF has been established in that area. There's many rural areas where there is a shortage of mobile police stations. What can be the role of the CPFs, and especially street committees, to involve the community in the fighting against crime?
The Honourable Minister.
For starters, Honourable Chair, I think we need to revive the vibrancy and effectiveness of the CPFs. And that CPFs, insofar as the issues of policing at a community level, must then begin to occupy a central role, because indeed CPFs must be seen as an extension of community oversight and civilian control over the work of the police. So we do need to emphasize on that issue. Ourselves internally within the police service, we are taking stock of around the issue of the overall functioning of CPFs, for an example. So, but CPFs can only be successful if behind them we're able to effectively mobilize our communities to take direct interest in issues of policing and in issues of safety, for an example. And it is through such community engagements that then indeed we can have an increased and heightened level of social awareness around issues of policing. Thank you very much, Chair.
Then the last supplementary is to be asked by the Honourable Ngwango.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Well, arising from the Minister's response, I would just like to know whether the Minister has any particular program in place to correct the previously skewed in favor of urban areas and towns police presence via the construction of actual physical police stations in rural areas that currently have none.
The Honourable Minister.
No, thanks, Honourable Chair. Firstly, I think Honourable Ngwango is raising quite a crucial point. The imbalance and the misalignment that you find insofar as the deployment of resources around policing, the urban bias and of course rural areas being somewhat in a disadvantage. Now, I had said earlier on during this very same question session that one of the issues that we're looking at is the question of the resource allocation guide itself, and how do we begin to try and strike the balance between the urban-rural divide, for an example, because it's quite a critical thing. For instance, there are many rural areas across the country that had a particular size of population, for an example, but most of them have really ballooned out, and yet we still remain with the kind of resources as we had previously. And so I think that's a very valid point, and it's an issue that we will want to take on moving forward in terms of the issue of reviewing our resource allocation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Members, question number 224 has been asked by the Honourable D.D. Raputi to the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. I have been informed that the Honourable Deputy Minister Landis will be answering questions on behalf of the Minister. The Honourable Deputy Minister.
Honourable Chairperson, the reply to the question is as follows. 1A, in the context of the UFA declaration, the BRICS leaders welcome the substantive progress that was made since the previous summit, especially the establishment of BRICS financial institutions, the New Development Bank, and the contingent reserve arrangement. BRICS leaders also announced that the UFA summit marked their entry into force. South Africa deposited its instrument of ratification for the agreement on the new development bank with the Federative Republic of Brazil on 30 June 2015 as the depository state for this agreement. BRICS leaders further welcomed the inaugural meeting of the Board of Governors of the NDB held on 7 July 2015 in Moscow under Russian chairpersonship, as well as the work done by the interim Board of Directors and the pre-management group aimed at the earliest launch of the bank. BRICS leaders reiterated that the NDB shall serve as a powerful instrument for financing infrastructure investment and sustainable development projects in the BRICS and other developing countries and emerging market economies, and for enhancing economic cooperation between BRICS countries. BRICS leaders directed that they expect the NDB to approve its inaugural investment projects in the beginning of 2016. BRICS leaders also welcomed the proposal for the NDB to cooperate closely with existing and new financing mechanisms, including the Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank. The NDB was officially launched in Shanghai on 21 July 2015. South Africa was represented at this launch by Mr. Leslie Marsdorp, Vice President of the NDB, and by Mr. Tito Mboweni, non-executive board member of the NDB. The South African Consul General was also in attendance. The President of the NDB, Mr. Kamath from India, noted in his opening address the important milestone that has been achieved in moving towards operationalizing the new development bank, and further outlined his expectations of the bank, as well as what is envisaged to be a roadmap for the next year and for the duration of his tenure. As a multilateral development bank established by emerging markets, in particular 5 countries with a common objective, it will be important to act in line with the developmental imperatives shared by the countries of the Global South. Vice President Mr. Marsdorp has remarked that BRICS and other developing countries face serious financing shortages for infrastructure projects such as new railroads and power stations. The NDB can assist to supplement funding that traditional multilateral development banks such as the World Bank and IMF provide. The NDB will also gauge best practices from existing institutions with a view to providing new best practices. In this regard, it could focus on investment in new technologies and sustainable development-related investments. The bank will also discuss if countries could apply for loans in their own currency in order to prevent their debt increasing when the dollar strengthens. South Africa is an equal shareholder together with other BRICS partners. South Africa will hopefully be able to obtain favorable loans for infrastructure developments, and the bank's foreign exchange reserves could assist to stabilize our own currency. South Africa's recognized excellence in financial matters will also enable it to contribute to the operationalization of the new development bank's African Regional Center. B, BRICS leaders welcome the conclusion of the ratification process of the treaty establishing a contingent reserve arrangement of the BRICS and its entry into force, as well as the signing of the BRICS Intercentral Bank Agreement that sets technical parameters of operations within the BRICS CRA. BRICS leaders commented that the creation of the BRICS CRA will allow its members to provide mutual financial support, which was deemed as an important step in the financial cooperation of BRICS countries. It bears no immediate or direct financial implication and will only be activated once a member makes a call for capital and according to the agreed share, but with the important condition of repayment.
Honourable Deputy Minister, your time has now expired. The Honourable Raputi, is there a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Deputy Minister. And this is a very exciting initiative from ideas to reality. Can the Deputy Minister outline how the Development Bank, BRICS Bank, as a powerful instrument to finance infrastructure investment, and sustainable development, how will it benefit South African citizens, and the other developing countries' citizens? I thank you.
The Honourable Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. As I pointed out in my initial response, the New Development Bank will serve as a powerful instrument for financing infrastructure investment and sustainable development projects in the BRICS and other developing countries and emerging market economies. Now, as we know, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Member, a serious shortcoming on the African continent is in the field of infrastructure development. South Africa has been given the task of leading in resolving this particular problem, and as such, it is ideally placed within the BRICS to ensure that this occurs within the shortest possible time, and in the process will provide the much-needed employment opportunities for countries within the continent, as far as even villages that the Honourable Member referred to.
The Honourable Kalyan.
Thank you, House Chair. Through you, Chairperson, I would like to say to the Deputy Minister that this morning's briefing in the Portfolio Committee was quite enlightening in view of the anti-BRICS sentiment that exists at the moment. But the devil lies in the detail, and Deputy Minister, can you explain how and from which department's budget will the authorized capital of the initial $2 billion and the contingent reserve of $5 billion be referred, and to perhaps say what effect this may have on the funding of other government priorities?
The Honourable Deputy Minister.
I thank you, Honourable Chairperson. My response to the Honourable Kalyan would be that this funding would come obviously direct from Treasury. Yes, really.
Continue, Honourable Deputy Minister.
It will come from Treasury via the Cabinet, obviously. And I would imagine that a role for
Order, honourable members.
A role for this Parliament would be played. The Honourable Kalyan is quite right. There is enormous anti-BRICS sentiment, and it's clearly directed at ensuring that the New Development Bank fails. However, it is for us, as members of BRICS, to ensure that this does not happen, and we want to give the assurance that it will not fail. Now, how am I, Deputy Minister?
No, Honourable Deputy Minister, I think you must rather address me and complete your response. Thank you. Order, honourable members. The Honourable Mente. There's been a request for a follow-up question from the Honourable Mente. The Honourable Estreisen.
Sorry, point of order.
Just take your seat, Honourable Estreisen. I'll come back to you. Why are you rising, Honourable?
I'm rising because part of the rule says that gestures themselves that are threatening in nature form part of unacceptable behaviour in Parliament. And perhaps the Deputy Minister, and I can see why he's a Deputy Minister of International Relations, would like to explain why he's pointing to my member, going like this and saying, "I'll see you outside."
No, honourable members, let's not make gestures in the House, because I've seen gestures both sides of the House. Let's refrain from that and allow the Honourable Estreisen to ask his follow-up question. Honourable Estreisen.
Thank you, House Chair. Excuse me. Honourable Deputy Minister, I think it's quite clear to the country that we stand to benefit greatly from our participation in the BRICS agreement, with our President Zuma stating that trade between BRICS countries is up by 70%, which is an extremely high figure. The establishment of the African Centre of the BRICS Development Bank in Johannesburg could be a useful connecting factor and contribute to the local development in South Africa and on the continent. My question is, how much has BRICS capital investment contributed into the local market to date? And do global banks see the development bank as a bank that caters only to first world countries or as a role player in global financial transactions as well? Thank you.
Honourable Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, and I thank the Honourable Esther Hazen for the question. Global banks at this point are silent on the whole question of the new development bank and whether they see this as a bank that provides for the third world countries or for the first world countries is up for debate. As far as we're concerned, because the BRICS is made up of the 5 countries who are developing countries, we see the bank as responsible for developmental issues for countries of the South. We view the opening of the African Regional Bank with much excitement, and we're looking forward to that, and it can't happen too soon for us.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Minister. Honourable Members, the time allocated for questions has expired. Outstanding replies received will be printed in Hansard. We now come to notices of motion. Does any member wish to give notice of a motion? Are there any notice of motion?
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at its next sitting this House debates police brutality and racism at the Edenvale Police Station and at the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department. I thank you.
Are there any further notice? Honourable Member there at the back.
Thank you, Chairperson. On behalf of the ANC, I move that on its next sitting, the House debates the impact that school sports have on the development and career opportunities that it opens for the youth of South Africa.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The DA.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at its next sitting, this House debates the state of our South Africa's wastewater infrastructure and the extent to which they are collapsing. Furthermore, debate the effects it have on our water resources.
The IFP.
Thank you, House Chair. On behalf of the Inkatha Freedom Party, I shall move for the next sitting of this House that the House debate the looming crisis within the mining sector, reports of which allude to the plans by mine owners to shed jobs in order to make their business more profitable, envisaging the loss of 50,000 jobs to the sector within the next 2 years, and the strategies that must immediately be put into place at senior government level in order to avert this potential socio-economic disaster. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The ANC.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. I move on behalf of the African National Congress that in its next sitting, the House debate, 1, the need for mining companies to improve on their social responsibility roles in order to avoid social conflict. I so move. Thank you.
The DA.
Chair, I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at its next sitting, this House debates the subject of drugs, the harm they have wrought to our nation's health, and to discuss solutions thereto. I thank you.
The IFB.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chairperson. I hereby give notice that I shall move on behalf of the IFB that this House at its next sitting debate the countless obstacles victims of gender-based violence face when seeking justice, which leads to an estimated 50% of such cases being withdrawn, and what the Department of Women and the Presidency and other government departments can do to address this challenge. Thank you.
Thank you. The ANC.
Thank you, Chairperson. I move on behalf of the ANC
that in its next sitting, the House debates the impact that municipal infrastructure grant can have on the development of sport in South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you. The NFP.
Thank you, Chairperson. On the next day of this House, I shall move on behalf of the NFP and request the House to discuss the issue of high incidence of armed robberies in our country. I so move.
The DA, the Honourable Glua.
Thank you, House Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at its next sitting, this House debates the escalating corruption in the public service and transgressions by the heads of departments and senior managers for their failure to disclose conflict of interest. So move. Thank you.
The ANC.
Thank you, Chairperson. I move on behalf of the ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates uniting the working class, our communities, and our movement as part of driving a second, more radical phase of our transition. Thank you.
The Democratic Alliance.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at its next sitting, this House debates the growing economic crisis facing South Africa, noting that A, South Africa's unemployment rate has skyrocketed from 31.7% in 2009 to 34.9% in 2015, with almost 8.4 million South Africans now unemployed. Of those, 2 out of 3, 2 in every 3 are young people. That GDP growth is forecast at 2% for 2015, falling far short of the 4.5% of other developing African economies is expected to achieve this year. That C, the figure released yesterday by Stats SA shows that the manufacturing production decreased by 1.2% in the second quarter of 2015 when compared to the first. That 6 out of the 10 manufacturing divisions reported negative growth rates over this period. I believe Parliament must now debate real solutions that will rescue our economy and create jobs for South Africans that they desperately need. I so move.
Thank you. The ANC.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of the ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates reducing the persisting high levels of racialized and gendered class inequality, unemployment, and poverty.
The DA.
Thank you, House Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at its next sitting, this House debates the role of telecommunications and information technology as a means by which citizens are better able to access government and how e-government can be fully utilized for improved service delivery for all our people. Thank you.
Thank you. The DA.
Thank you, House Chair. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at its next sitting, the House debated the scourge of corruption within SASSA and the impact of it in terms of our vulnerable people of our society and to come up with solutions.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Are there any further notice of motion?
Thank you, House Chair. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at its next sitting, this House debates the role the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation must play to reduce red tape, which hampers the growth of small business development and job creation. I so move.
Thank you. Honourable Member at the back.
Thanks, House Chair. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at its next sitting, this House debates violations of the Labour Relations Act and fair labour practices by football clubs in the Premier Soccer League and National First Division. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further notice of motion? No further notice of motion. We come to motions without notice. Are there any motions without notice? The ANC.
The African National Congress moves without notice that the House notes with excitement the brilliant performance by South African athletes Chad Ho, Chad Leclos, and Cameron van der Berg, who altogether collected 5 medals for South Africa at the FINA World Championships in Kazan, in Russia, over the weekend, which ended on Sunday, the 9th. Further notes that Chad Ho won gold medal, while Chad Leclos won gold and silver, and Cameron van der Berg 2 silver medals. Recognizing that South Africa has managed to equal the number of medals it achieved from the 2013 World Championships, with 5 medals in total, and improved with having 2 gold and 3 silver medals, as compared to 2 gold, 2 silver, and 1 bronze from the 2013 Championships, and congratulates our athletes and wish them more success in their future endeavors, and thanking them for flying the South African flag high. I so move.
Are there any objections to the motion?
Chair, we congratulate the athletes, but we object the motion.
So you object to the motion? The motion is not agreed to. The Democratic Alliance?
Chair, I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House notes that Professor Karisha Abdul Karim, one of our leading HIV/AIDS researchers, will in October be inducted into the U.S. National Academy of Medicine, one of the highest honors in the field of health and medicine. Recalls that she, a former mathematics and science teacher, was instrumental in setting up an HIV/AIDS clinic in Vulindlela and Pietermaritzburg 14 years ago in the response to a local chief's call to stop, and I quote, people from dying of HIV. Also recalls that she has been awarded an A rating from the National Research Foundation for pioneering work in HIV prevention research. Further recalls that she, with her husband Salim, head up the Center for AIDS Program of Research and is an honorary professor in public health at the Nelson Mandela School of Medicine at the University of KZN, as well as a professor of clinical epidemiology at New York's Columbia University. Acknowledges that Professor Karim's greatest breakthrough came when a team showed that antiretroviral drugs applied as a microbicide gel help women prevent HIV and herpes infection. Conveys our heartfelt congratulations for her magnificent achievement in the health sciences in service of the South African people and many others who suffer from such a devastatingly infectious disease. I thank you.
If there are no objections, I put the motion. No objections. Are there objections?
Thank you, House Chair. I object.
There's an objection. The motion is not agreed to. Are there any further motions without notice? The EFF?
I rise on behalf of the EFF to move without notice that the House notes the despicable and abusive manner of the pastor at the end-time minister in Soshanguve, Pretoria, Pastor Panuel Mnguni, who has been feeding people snakes, rats over the past few months, and all in the name of Christianity. Further notes that the same pastor has asked women to take off their clothes so that he could pray for them. Asked people to eat human hair, ants, leaves, and all manner of things that have got nothing to do with the Christian faith, and everything to do with the satanic dehumanization of our people. Further notes that the EFF decided to visit the church last Sunday to ask the pastor to eat the snake and the rats that has been feeding our people in his church. When the EFF got there, the pastor had run away, further confirming that our belief that is not prepared to taste the snakes and rats that is feeding our people. Acknowledges the anger of the community of Soshanguve, who decided to pull down and ban the tent that the 23-year-old naughty pastor used to mislead our people. Further notes that the delinquents such as this pastor find fertile ground to mislead our people in the name of faith, because our people are vulnerable as a result of poverty, economic apartheid, and that they are subjected to under the leadership of the ANC. Call on the ANC government to take the need for economic emancipation of our people as the biggest challenge to the maintenance of peace and sanity in this country. Further calls on the leaders of faith, such as the South African Council of Churches, to do all in their power to prevent chances such as Mnguni to continue soiling the Christian religion in the manner that this pastor and others do. I so move.
I now put the motion. Are there any objections?
The ANC objects.
There's an objection. The motion is not agreed to. The ANC.
The ANC moves without notice that the House welcomes the recent appointment of Dr. Gwen Ramaphosa as the Chancellor of the Tshwane University of Technology. Further notes that Dr. Ramaphosa, former Deputy Minister of Health and Mayor of the city of Tshwane, was installed as TUT's third Chancellor on the 10th of June 2015 at the University of Pretoria campus. Acknowledges that as a visionary, she has always been passionate about success and excellence in every cause she commits to. Recalls that in her various roles and responsibilities, Dr. Ramaphosa has demonstrated her passion and committed on issues of justice, leadership, innovation, and excellence, and congratulates Dr. Ramaphosa on her recent appointment. Thank you.
I now put the motion. Are there any objections?
Thank you, House Chair. I object.
There's an objection. The motion is not agreed to. Are there any further motions without notice? The IFP.
Thank you, Chairperson. On behalf of the IFP, I move without notice that the House extends its deepest condolences on the sad passing of the Durban Kwaito musician known to many as R. Mashesha, born Sibusiso Como. Notes that R. Mashesha was a member of the South African music award-winning group Big Nuz, which has been instrumental in popularizing the genre known as Durban Kwaito. Further notes that Como died on August 7th following complications after undergoing surgery. Acknowledges that the group was set to promote their latest album titled, quote, For the Fans, close quote, which was to be launched on the same day when news of the death of one of their members put everything to a standstill. And finally, further acknowledges that this is a great loss to the music industry, as Mr. Como was said to be the brains behind the catchy and entertaining lyrics that has seen the group enjoy so much success. I so move.
I now put the motion. Are there any objections?
Honorable Chair, we sympathize with the family. However, as EFF, we object.
There's an objection. The motion is not agreed to. The EFF.
Thank you, Chairperson. I rise on behalf of the economic freedom fighters for the House to note the President's media brief on the progress update and his lack of understanding on the state of the economy, as he continues to think that South African economy is growing or is recovering when things are getting worse. Notes that the revised 3% GDP growth is misguided and unwarranted, as there is no clear indication from any direction that the economy is improving. Further note that the crisis in the mining and steel sector, recession in the manufacturing sector, electricity constraints, and possible job losses will lead to a negative GDP growth. Condemn Mr. Zuma for failing to recognize and understand the magnitude of the catastrophic economic crisis that is looming. Call on the Minister of Finance and the rest of the economics cluster ministers to advise the President accordingly and stop giving misleading information which reveals his lack of understanding and knowledge of the economy and everything that is happening in the country. I so move.
I now put the motion. Are there any objections?
Yes, the IFP objects.
There's an objection. The motion is not agreed to. I would earnestly urge the whips to deal with this matter of motions without notice. There's been an established practice in the past as how we deal with these different motions. Some of them are very important, and it seems to me there's no agreement in terms of the processing thereof. Motions without notice is a very important element of parliamentary democracy. And I urge parties to get together so that we can treat this with the necessary respect and also the urgency that it deserves. The IFP.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hereby move without notice that the House notes that 60 police officers have been killed since January this year. Further notes that 8 police officers were killed in the past 2 weeks alone. Conveys condolences to the families and loved ones of the 60 SAPS members who lost their lives. acknowledges that an urgent national plan to address the increase in police killings is now urgently needed. Further acknowledges that the levels of crime and lawlessness has reached unacceptable levels in our country. Calls on all police officers to be vigilant at all times and for South Africans to ensure that all sectors of society play an active role in combating crime. I so move.
I now put the motion. Are there any objections?
EFF object.
There's an objection. The motion is not agreed to. The NFP.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. On behalf of the National Freedom Party, I move without notice that this Honourable House notes that South Africa's national netball team, the SPA Proteas, are currently playing in the Netball World Cup tournament in Sydney, Australia, and also notes that the SPA Proteas had a good confidence-boosting victory over Wales in their first match in the second round of the Netball World Cup in Sydney on Tuesday, beating the Welsh team by 60 goals to 38. And further note that South Africa played defending champions Australia on Wednesday and world number 3 England on Friday. And finally notes that the Proteas need to win one of these two matches against Australia and England to qualify for the semi-finals. Wherefore, we call upon this Honourable House to congratulate the SPA Proteas on their convincing win over the national team of Wales and wish the team success in their match against Australia. I so move. Thank you.
I now put the motion. Are there any objections?
The EFF object the motion.
There's an objection. The motion is not agreed to. The ANC? Finished. The DA?
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House notes that Public Protector Advocate Thuli Madonsela was honoured with yet another accolade last week when she received the annual Woman of Substance Award from the African Women Chartered Accountants Association. Notes that the award ceremony was held in Bryanston on Thursday, 6 August, and was attended by special guest, former Deputy President and current Under-Secretary General of the UN, Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka. Further notes that this prestigious award was bestowed on Advocate Madonsela for her quality leadership in areas of governance and business to advance gender equality. Acknowledges that this is merely the latest honor for Advocate Madonsela, who last year made the Time magazine list of 100 most influential women in the world. Congratulates to Advocate Madonsela on receiving this acclaimed award, and thanks Advocate Madonsela for her diligence and unwavering support in upholding and protecting the Constitution. Malibongwe.
I now put the motion. Are there any objections? There's an objection.
We support the public protector, but we object to the motion
there is
because
an
the
objection.
DA colluded with the ANC to undermine the office of the public
Thank
protector.
you, Honourable Member. We note the objection and the motion is not agreed to. The EFF. Order, Honourable Members.
Thank you, House Chair. I move without notice on behalf of the Economic Freedom Fighters that the House notes that on Sunday, the 9th of August, the Economic Freedom Fighters held a successful Women's Day rally at Siyabuswa Community Hall in Mpumalanga to celebrate the role women have and continue to play in shaping our society. Further note that this event was attended by more than 3,000 women who have all committed themselves to the struggle of
Honourable Members.
in their lifetime, and who came to listen to the Commander-in-Chief of the EFF and the President-in-Waiting of South Africa, President Julius Malema, who talked about the need for radical policies to liberate women from their daily struggles. Acknowledges that the CIC spoke about issues directly affecting women and said that there will be no true freedom in the country until all women are free because they constitute the majority of the society. Further acknowledges that a strong theme of the event was a commitment by the EFF to work tirelessly to ensure that education opportunities are provided to young women, and women do not get bypassed for work they are qualified to do in favor of men, and to eliminate the scourge of women abuse in our society. Further notes that all this social ill can be overcome through programs targeted at the economic emancipation of women, such as giving them right to own land and farm in rural areas. We call on the House to tighten measures to force companies and government to take seriously need for radical gender transformation in their boardrooms. Further calls on the House to tighten up regulation to prevent senior politicians and public servants from abusing women as sex objects by demanding sex from women before they can be offered jobs and opportunities. I so move.
Order, honourable members. Order. I put the motion. Are there any objections?
Honourable Chairperson, the National Freedom Party objects.
And the IFP the motion is not agreed to.
Chairperson.
Yes, honourable member. Order, honourable members.
I know it's Women's Month, but is it parliamentary for the white lady over there to shout abuse at me?
Honourable.
That woman over there.
Point of order.
Honourable member. What is the point of order?
There have been several rulings in this House, House Chairperson, on racial profiling. This is the second time it's happened in as many weeks in this House, and I'd ask that you give some direction on that. This is not what the Constitution envisaged. She's an honourable member, and she should not be racially profiled.
Honourable members, there's been rulings in this regard, and all of us need to be aware that when we're here in the House, we refer to each other as the honourable members. And since the member has been pointed to, there was no reason whatsoever, Honourable Paulson, for you to use that type of language. I ask you to withdraw that remark, and then I will deal with the member that you pointed to.
Okay, I withdraw.
Thank you. Honourable member, did you make any abusive remarks? I think it's the Honourable van der Walt. Did you make any remark to the honourable member? Okay, we will check. We will check the proceedings, and then we will come back to the House with a ruling on that matter. Thank you.
Point of order. Chairperson, no other member of this House can call a member of Parliament who's an honourable member a liar. The Honourable Paulson has just called the Honourable van der Walt a liar, and I would ask that he's asked to please withdraw that.
Honourable Paulson, did you call the honourable member a liar? Order. There's only one Honourable Paulson in the House.
Yes, I did. Okay, I withdraw. She's not a liar.
Thank
She's
you.
just untruthful.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Member, you must withdraw unconditionally.
No, I cannot. I will withdraw the word, but I.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Thank you. There was somewhere I saw another hand for another motion. There's more now. You know you're reading these motions and you know you're not going to agree to it. That is what is happening. Let me take the member at the back of the UDM. I have not heard the UDM.
Thank you, Chairperson. I move without notice on behalf of the UDM that the House notes that gunfire erupted on Sunday night, the 9th of August in Ferguson, Missouri, USA. The incident was as a result of a peaceful first anniversary march meant to commemorate the life of Michael Brown, who was alleged to have been killed by a police officer in Ferguson a year ago. Further notes that it is reported that the gunfire started during the night when a group of protesters who were alleged to have blocked traffic refused to disperse when they were ordered to do so by police officers. Acknowledges that during the conflict, a young man whose father was part of the commemoration to pay respect to his friend Brown was also shot dead. Further acknowledged that many protesters were arrested on Monday, the 10th of August, when they assembled again after the Sunday conflict. Further condemned violence that erupted between the police and the protesters. Calls on the people of Ferguson to always promote the non-violence doctrine of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which he believed in, lived, and strived for during the 1950s. Further calls on the people of the global village to promote peace, respect, unity, security, self-determination, amongst other things, so that we can have a better world to live in tomorrow. Send condolences to families that have lost their loved ones, in particular the family of the young man. I so move.
If there are no objections, I put the motion.
We object. There must be justice before peace.
There's an objection and the motion is not agreed to. The IFP, did the IFP have a motion without notice? Then it's the EFF. I'll come to you now.
Thank you, Chairperson. I rise to move on behalf of the EFF for the House to note the passing away of the, grade 11 people who fell from a moving vehicle due to the bad state of roads in township and villages especially during a rainy season in Zabedian and Limpopo province. Note that hundreds of community members took to street to demand proper third road clinic and end of poor service delivery. Further notes, police intervened and used rubber bullets to disperse protesters when the municipality failed to address them. Condemn Lipalilankumbi municipality for failing to address the community for raising justified service delivery demands. Call on municipality to provide the community with proper third road and clinic immediately and resolve the service delivery protest. Call on the Minister of Kokta to capacitate all the municipality to ensure service delivery is a priority and dignity is restored. I so move.
If there are no objections, I put the motion. Are there any objections?
Yes.
There's an objection. The motion is not agreed to.
I object.
The Democratic Alliance.
Thanks, Chair. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House notes the tragic passing of former Mr. Gay World, Charles van den Berg. Also notes that Mr. van den Berg lost his short battle to lymphatic cancer at the age of just 33 this past weekend. Recalls that Mr. van den Berg won the title of Mr. Gay South Africa in 2009 before proceeding to win Mr. Gay World in Oslo in 2010. Acknowledges Mr. van den Berg's true commitment to the advancement of equal human rights in Africa and around the world. Further acknowledges the invaluable contribution Mr. van den Berg made to the battle against HIV/AIDS in many parts of this country during and after his reign. Conveys our sincere condolences to the family and friends of Mr. Charles van den Berg, and also conveys our sympathies to the Mr. Gay World organization for this heartbreaking loss. I so move.
I now put the motion. Are there any objections? Yes, Honourable Member.
Honourable Chair, this House is sick just as the family of Mr. van der Berg is suffering.
Are you objecting, Honourable Member?
The EFF sympathizes with the family, but because the ANC and the DA have turned this House into a mock-up,
Thank you.
we object
Thank you,
to
Honourable
the
Member.
motion.
There's an objection. There's an objection, and the motion is thus not agreed to. There's another motion.
Thank you, Chairperson. I move on behalf of the African National Congress that the persistent lack of quality debate and infantile conduct is a growing ugly scar on the body politic of South Africa, and therefore that this House directs the presiding officers to engage with the chief whips of all parties to find ways to restore democratic decorum to this tribunal of the people. I so move.
I now put the motion. Are there any objections?
We object to such a foolish motion.
There's an objection to the motion. It's not agreed to. And then the last one for today, the Democratic Alliance. Order, honourable members. What is the point of order, Honourable Minister?
The honourable member, of course, can choose whatever language he wishes, but I'd like him to withdraw the word foolish. I certainly did not move a foolish motion.
No, who is claiming responsibility for this
Speaker,
now? Is it you, Honourable Paulson? It's withdrawn. The Democratic Alliance?
Thank you, Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this
Order,
House
honourable members.
notes that 20-year-old soprano and aspiring opera singer Joni Hofmeyr received the news of her dreams in March this year, that she was accepted on a scholarship to the prestigious Juilliard School of Music in New York. Further notes that just getting into the school is a feat in itself, but as an overseas student on a scholarship is truly remarkable. Recalls that Joni started her training in music at the tender age of 7. Further recalls that she was just 12 when she made it through to the finals of the National Eisteddfod. Acknowledges that after the family moved to Johannesburg, Joni was presented with her first significant singing opportunities. Further acknowledges that Joni's resolve and passion to make her dream come true drew her to Rodin School on a full music scholarship. Recognizes that Joni's scholarship to the Juilliard covers 93% of the tuition fee, but she needed to raise around $30,000 to supplement the tuition and cover projected living costs, etc. Congratulates Joni that through her sheer drive, concert performances and support from artists who believe that this talent needs to be nurtured, she has managed to raise the money. Congratulates the efforts of St. George's Church, Parktown, and its congregation for their generosity in donating over 90,000 rand to Joni's fundraising efforts, and wishes Joni well as she sets off to New York this weekend to begin her 3-year degree. I so move.
I now put the motion. Are there any objections?
There's nothing that will save the ANC from this.
Are you objecting, Honourable Member?
They can pray until Jesus comes.
Are you objecting?
We object to the motion.
There's an objection and the motion is thus not agreed to. Honourable Members, the Secretary will read the first order of the day.
Decision of question on first reading. Rates and mandatory amounts and amendment of revenue laws bill.
Order, Honourable Members. Can you read the first order again, Secretary? And I request members to listen to what the order is.
Decision of question on first reading. Rates and mandatory amounts and amendment of revenue laws laws bill.
Honourable Members, I wish to remind you that after the debate on the first reading of this bill on Tuesday, the 4th of August 2015, the decision of question on the first reading was postponed. Order, Honourable Members. Are there any objections to the rates and monetary amounts and amendment of the Revenue Laws Bill being read a first time? There's objections. I now put the question. Those in favour will say aye, and those against will say no. I think the ayes have it.
House Chairperson, the Democratic Alliance calls for a division.
A division having been called for, the bells will be rung for 5 minutes.